welcome. My name is Shane Webb, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to Mario Fazekas. Mario is a certified fraud examiner, a training assessor accredited by FACET, which is the Sector Education and Training Authority for Finance, Accounting, Management Consulting, and other financial services, and he is a director of ExactTech Forensics. Mario has over 20 years fraud risk management experience, including 6 years in the forensic department of E&Y, Ernst & Young, where he headed up the fraud prevention function for their largest global internal audit client. Mario has provided fraud risk management solutions for organizations in the USA, Canada, Europe, and throughout most of Southern and East Africa. Interesting fact, Mario is also a wildlife photographer who has published 4 photography books on the national parks of Southern Africa. It's my pleasure to hand you over to Mario Fazekas. Thanks very much, Mario. Over to you.
Thank you, Shane. And again, good morning, ladies and gents. What I'd like to do is to start with a poll. So if you can please give your answer. Let me just bring it up. The question I want to ask is, how confident are you that fraud isn't being committed in your organization?
We have got 64%, wow, are fairly certain that some of the staff are committing fraud. And then the next favorite is 21% have no idea. Can you really know? Back to you. Thanks, Mario.
Thank you, Shane. Thanks, ladies and gents. I did a webinar last week for CFOs and HR directors, and these were their answers. So very similar to yours, and in your case, a few more fairly confident that the staff are committing fraud. For the people that say, no, we're extremely confident in our ethical culture, I'll ask them a few questions. For example, when last did you do a fraud risk assessment? So it's like me saying to you, there's nothing wrong with me. And then you would ask, well, when last did you go to the doctor? Because a lot of times you don't know you're ill till it manifests itself later on down the line. So it's critical to do regular fraud risk assessment. When I say regular, anything from 12 to 18 months. That's how often we should do high-level fraud risk assessments. But anyway, back to this COVID-19 situation. People say to me, you're doing this full-time. You're a forensic auditor. Is fraud increasing? I said, yes, it is increasing. And they said, wow. So since March, people have gone mad. They've started to steal. I said, no. What has happened, as Warren Buffett said, only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. The people have been stealing all along. They've been stealing in 2017 and 18 and 19. But now that the tide has gone out, when the economy is good, most senior people or management are worried about the rands. They're not worried about the cents. Now that the tide has gone out, we're worried about those cents. I've had friends and family telling me in the last few months, my dentist office phoned me, my doctor's office phoned me, and they tell me I owe them 12 Rand or 56 Rand. And I said, what for what? I haven't been to the doctor or dentist this year. And they said, no, it's from last year. We're doing a reconciliation. So stuff that people normally would have just written off, it's 12 Rand, it'll cost us more to recover it. Now they're going back to get the money. That's how serious it is. People are looking out for those cents. On top of that, you've got what we call the perfect storm for fraud. So because of COVID-19, this is a quote from Bruce Doris, the CEO for the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. Organizations are making cuts to attempt to operate with leaner staff. So they're saying to people, you're non-essential. And a lot of these non-essential people are auditors, compliance officers, and ethics officers, non-essential. Or for example, they may have 4 people in an accounts department and they're saying, we don't need 4, let's get rid of 1 or 2. There goes your segregation of duties, because what 4 people were doing, now 1 or 2 is going to be doing. So the pressures now and the opportunities are mounting, causing this perfect storm for fraud. So if you weren't having fraud before, you most probably will be having it now. Many of you have most probably heard of the fraud triangle. I want to expand on it a little bit. So for those of you that haven't, there's pressure on people. Then they look around, they see opportunities. My boss doesn't check this, he doesn't ask those questions. They know when the boss is not it's very busy, so that's when they'll come to you with their expense claim, knowing that you won't sign the supporting documents and so on. And then, of course, rationalization. So when those three things come together, that's when the person commits the fraud. All of us are under pressure, but we're not fraudsters. All of us will see opportunities every day to steal a cell phone or do something. We don't all do it. But when the pressure is there with the opportunity and we rationalize, I'm just borrowing the money, my boss will never pick it up. And when I hit the jackpot at the casino, I'll just pay it back. A lot of people poo-poo this fraud triangle because they've like seen it month after month in articles, in training courses. It's no big deal, but it is a big deal, ladies and gents. That's why if you look at ISA 240, the external auditor's fraud auditing standard, it forms 5 pages of that standard. The whole annexure is 5 pages giving external auditors guidance on when you come to do your statutory audit to look for pressure. What are the warning signs in terms of management and employees? What are the opportunities I should be looking for in terms of management and employees? And the same thing with rationalization. External auditors should be going to HR, because people say to me, how will you know what people's rationalizations are? You can't read minds. I say, quite right. But then what we do, we go to HR and say, what complaints have you had or issues in the last year for things that are not serious? So the people are still working here. Sexual harassment, downloading pornography, tardiness, those type of things. And then what excuses did they give when you confronted them with their tardiness or sexual harassment? That tells you how people are thinking. So back to the fraud triangle. If we look at those 3 items, as we've just said, we can see people who are under pressure. They snap at you. They don't like you asking them questions. They may be perspiring. It's the middle of winter, but a person starts perspiring when you ask them something. We can see the opportunities that, hey, there's no segregation of duties here. The boss signs off things without checking the supporting documents. But the third one, the rationalization, we can't see. So what we do is we replace that rationalization with deviance. Because what we found is, I'm going to steal this pen. What do you call me? Do you call me a pen thief or do you call me a thief? You're going to call me a thief, right? So I'm not just stealing pens. Today I steal the pen. Tomorrow I'm stealing the stock or the money from the bank account. I'm not just a pen thief. I'm a thief. I take things that don't belong to me. So it's very important to look at deviance. So if the person is breaking the rules in your business and downloading pornography and your policy says do not do that, what else are they doing, ladies and gents? That's the question you should be asking. They're doing these little things. What are the other big things they're doing? So we call it the POD model: pressure, opportunity, and deviance. So we're not saying we are replacing the fraud triangle. The fraud triangle still stands. That is what inside the perpetrator, those 3 things come together and the person decides, I'm going to start stealing. But he will also start manifesting deviant behavior. And that's what you need to look for: the pressure, the opportunity, and the deviance. So let's have a look at some famous people. This guy's Barry Minko. He came out of jail last year for the 3rd time. First time, he went to jail when he was 22 years old. He was a multi-millionaire. And he says, I wanted to live the high life. Then economic pressure reared its ugly head and I lied, stole, and cheated. His business went public in America. Investors, he was worth $200 million. He was on the Oprah Winfrey show. He had a Ferrari, double-story mansion. You name it, he had it. And there are 2 types of pressure. There's external pressure and internal pressure. He had the internal pressure. He's a clever guy. He's a brilliant guy. They are still using his case study today in teaching accounting students in American and global universities. And his internal pressure was, I want a Ferrari, but I know I'll get it, but I'll only get it most probably in 5 years. And I want to be on Oprah Winfrey, but I want to be on Oprah Winfrey now, and I want my Ferrari now, not in 5 years. So he put all that pressure on himself, and he went out and got his Ferrari and got his program with Oprah Winfrey. So you need to remember that there's external pressure, because you might be saying, Well, let's go back in time. The year 2000 was quite a good year. So people weren't under pressure. The economy was booming and everything was fine. What about the pressure people are putting on themselves? So we need to look at both. Then we look at opportunity or autonomy, as we call it. This is Jerome Kerviel. He was a trader for SocGen. He put through fictitious trades to the tune of, I think it was 4 point something billion euros. And the judge said to him in the court case, you are guilty, you have admitted guilt, I'm finding you guilty, but I'm not sending you to jail because your bosses knew what you were doing and they turned and looked the other way because they were earning bonuses off your fake trades. I should actually be putting them in jail, but I found you guilty and I'm not sending you to jail. So there's what we call active autonomy and passive autonomy. Active means I earn my trust in the organization. I hold the door open for the ladies. I bring donuts every Friday. I see somebody that's got a problem. I help them. I give them a lift. I give my colleagues money. They all like me, so they let me get away with murder, literally. And then there's passive autonomy. I look around me and I can see my boss doesn't care about ethics. The management doesn't care. The auditors never ask me any questions. They sit in their boardroom talking to each other. They don't go walk around and observe. I feel quite comfortable here. The opportunity has presented itself to me on a platter. I don't have to go and actively look for it. Or they maybe do both. So those are the two types of opportunity you need to be on the lookout for. And then, of course, deviance. There's personal deviance and professional deviance. Now, a lot of people say to me, you know what, it's got nothing to do with my company, what I do in my spare time. And I say, I beg to differ, because if I'm hiring you or you hiring me, you hiring the whole of me, not half of me. So if I'm Jack the Ripper and I'm murdering people on my spare time, you're not going to hire me. You don't want me near your business and your colleagues and your family because I'm a murderer. It's the same thing here. They did a survey about 3 years ago. They took a group of job seekers and they put them through the normal psychometric and CV evaluations to see if they're a good fit for the job. And then another group did only social media. They eventually hired the people, let them work for 6 months, went back to the recruiters and said to the recruiters, here is your evaluations from your integrity tests and evaluating the CV and your interview, and here is the feedback from social media, from Facebook. Which of the two is most accurate that summarizes that person? 90% said social media was more accurate than their psychometric tests or their CV evaluations and interviews. Remember, in the interview, I can be on my best behavior. I can go and Google the type of questions that you're going to ask me, and I can Google the type of answers I should be giving you, whereas social media is me. I will post pictures of myself doing things, getting drunk at parties, whatever the case may be, thinking, well, nobody's ever going to see those. Now, you take those two gentlemen in the picture. Both of them were CEOs at Enron. Jeffrey Skilling on the left, who just got out of jail 2 years ago. He had a 25-year sentence. And Kenneth Lay on the right, who died of a heart attack before they put him in jail. Kenneth Lay, his sister owned a travel agency called Travel Agency in the Park. And he said to all his employees, if you're traveling, you must use that travel agency. And then they used it, and she let them down and booked them on wrong flights. You know what happens when you get captive business? You don't treat it with respect because it's been given to you. So it was a terrible experience, and the staff stopped using her. He sent out a memo threatening them to say, if you do not use my sister's travel agency, he didn't say sister, he said this travel agency, I'm going to have disciplinary action on you. So he forced his people to use the sister's travel agency. And that's not unheard of, ladies and gents. There's a lot of, just look at Steinhoff. Half the directors had conflicts of interest where they had their own companies dealing with Steinhoff and buying from or selling to Steinhoff and ripping off Steinhoff at the end of the day. It's all documented in the PwC report. So let's unpack this fraud triangle in terms of COVID-19. The money is a problem. People have got to pay back loans and bonds. They have medical bills. They've got to look after their family. They've got to eat. So there's extreme pressure in terms of money. Where's the money coming from? I've got a few people that I know that are sales reps in insurance field and the motor car field. Those that haven't lost their jobs, they're still there, but they're not earning a commission. All they're getting is a basic. They've got a certain lifestyle to lead. And they're saying, I don't know where I'm going to get commission again. There's extreme pressure on these people. Then we look at rationalization. So there's reduced rewards. People are not getting their commissions and their bonuses and salary increases. People are being told, you're just lucky you got a job, which is the truth. People are being retrenched. So I haven't got to it yet, but think of the rationale. If you say to somebody, I'm retrenching you, I'm giving you a month's notice, end of the month, you must be gone. I'm going to work here for a month. There's going to be no loyalty. So my rationalization is going to be very high to say, you don't care about me. Why must I care about you? I'm going to take what I can. And the others that are left behind are saying, well, sure, he was retrenched. I could be next. So let me take what I can while I can. So there's perceived lack of employer empathy. The way some companies have treated their staff is really bad. There's a concern over sustainability. How long is my company going to last? Let me take what I can while I can, leading to low employee morale. And what we term survival ethics. I have to survive. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's now literally food and clothing and my roof over my head. Those are my basics. I've gone from the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs back down to the bottom now. I'm looking at, so very easy for people not to rationalize. It's for my family's benefit. I'm not a thief. I'm just looking out for my family. There's also poor team dynamics where people are now, we are social creatures and we like to socialize. Many people always said, you know, I'd love to work from home. Now that they're forced to work from home, they're saying, you know, I miss the office environment. I miss the camaraderie. So yeah, people are finding out the hard way that there's pros and cons to both, leading to poor mental and physical health. And this survival ethics is going to lead to a lot of what we see as time theft, sick leave fraud, and ghost employees because they're working from home. Then we look at opportunity, corporate governance. So what is happening now is people are working from home. And I'll get to what should we be doing about employees working from home? They're out of sight, out of mind. Do we know what they're doing? Are they doing what they say they're doing? At least at the office, we could pop in and monitor them and have a look to see, are they actually doing what they're doing on a daily basis? Now we don't see them for weeks. We left with ineffective fraud detection systems because the people that were running our data analytics have been retrenched. They're non-essential. Nobody else knows how to run the data analytics. Or our segregation of duties is broken down. There's a perceived need for control overrides. So what is happening is people are saying, wow, business is really tough at the moment. So if somebody comes along, we got no time to say, we'll get back to you in a week or two. Let us do our due diligence. No, get the business, get it in now. So we're not doing our due diligence. So we may be dealing with somebody who is a front company and we're going to deliver our goods to them and they're going to pay us on 30 days. And then 30 days comes, we can't find them. They're gone because we didn't do that due diligence. There's reduced transparency, not knowing what the people are actually doing at home. People putting information on the cloud, thinking it's secure using Dropbox, which can be secure or not, depending how we use it. And of course, the reduced segregation of duties. Now, of course, ladies and gents, there are perks working from home. There's how much time did you spend in a car? I would spend maybe, I'm an early bird, so I would leave home before 6, actually by 5:15, I'm leaving home. So 20 minutes, I live in the West Rand, I'll be in Pretoria in 20 minutes. A lot of people won't do that and they'll sit for maybe hour and a half to 2 hours in traffic, then coming home another 2 hours. That's 4 hours of your day gone. Whereas we can wake up and be productive. So we have more flexibility, we have better work-life balance, but we have to be more disciplined. So I'm not saying work from home is all bad. There's the good parts to work from home, but you need to weigh it up. Some people, you can say, I trust that person. They've proved themselves. I don't need to micromanage them. So that person can work at home and I don't know they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Whereas that one, I got to watch that person constantly. They're always dropping the ball. What I want to do is show you how things have changed. When a criminal looks at your business, they look at it, it's called an attack surface. Same when the burglar comes, he looks at the attack surface, meaning that if you've got a house, he will be looking for the windows and the doors. How do I get in? So what you're looking at now is about 15, 20 years ago. That was the original attack surface. So it's like having an underground bunker with one door. So there's only one way in and out of your business, your network, your local area network. As opposed to a year ago, before I go into a year ago, this article popped up last month in May. This prediction is the largest cyber attack of history could happen within the next 6 months. And I want to show you why that person is saying that. Because we've gone from this 20 years original attack surface, meaning that we all know if somebody wants to attack our local area network, he or she has to come from one direction, as opposed to how things have changed. And a year ago, you now got the odd contractor accessing your local area network. People are bringing their own devices. People are accessing the network from home, from the office. You got the odd remote worker, the odd person working from home. Since COVID-19, this is what it looks like. You've got nearly everybody working from home. So the attack surface, when a criminal looks at your business, he is seeing multiple doors and windows on how to get into your business. And all he has to do, remember, ladies and gents, is find one open door, open window, and they are in. So now, instead of securing a few windows and doors, you have many hundreds, if not thousands, of windows and doors to secure to your business. And most organizations' perimeter defense has not been upgraded. They're sitting with the same perimeter defense that they had pre-COVID-19. But look how the system has changed. So, right at the beginning, I gave you a quote from Bruce Doris, who is the CEO of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. Every 2 years, they publish a global fraud survey. This year, February, they launched their 12th survey, I think it was. And that's where I was quoting from, where he was talking about the perfect storm. He launched that in February, and March, April, we had this COVID-19 lockdown scenario. So they did another small survey just on COVID-19 fraud. And they looked at the top 5 fraud schemes currently being observed due to the coronavirus. And they're saying 90% of respondents reported they've seen an increase in scams, of which more than half say it's been a significant amount. I think phishing alone has increased by 6,000%. So let's have a look at each one of these. There's your phishing, 75% overall increase. To put it in perspective, 91% of successful data breaches start with what's called a spear phishing attack. So if you look at the data breaches, 30% are caused by repeat offenders, meaning it's the same people in your organization that are being irresponsible and that are clicking on links that they shouldn't be clicking on, putting you at risk. And 15% of phishing attack victims fall prey a second time. Ludicrous, ladies and gents. They hit once, and they don't do anything about it. And they just keep everything as is, thinking, oh, well, we've had our turn. Well, the criminals are not stupid. It was easy the first time. I guarantee you they'll be back for the second time if you keep on leaving your windows and doors open. The average cost in South Africa to a ransomware attack is 43 million. Do you have 43 million lying around? If we look at the most recent South African cases, Liberty Life, City of Johannesburg, City Power, Nedbank, and they got into Nedbank not because Nedbank security was no good, but because it was a third-party provider that they got into, and via that third-party provider into Nedbank and got their whole database. 75% of these organizations were running up-to-date endpoint protection. Remember, ransomware and phishing goes around whatever you have directly to employees because they know they'll be sitting on Facebook and WhatsApp and they're going to click on these links, so your firewall's ineffective because they're sitting at home or at free Wi-Fi at Mug and Bean clicking on these links. Some of you might be saying, well, we're not a big Liberty Life, we're not a City of Joburg, we're not even on the radar of these people. I beg to differ. You might be saying, we don't even have anything of value. We don't have this big database of customers that they can steal and then threaten us with and put out there on the dark web. Here's a ransomware attack on a very small business, and they paid $150,000 ransom to get access back. A small business. It makes it interesting reading, and you can watch the video, ladies and gents. The slides will be given out to you, and there is the link. So I'm not going to play the whole video, but what I'm going to do, I've extracted some key quotes. The owner said, we just 8 computers in a building and never thought something like this would be possible. 8 of us, 8, we're so small, we're not even on the radar. Well, he thought he wasn't on the radar. Our insurance agent said, this is strange, you don't really have anything that can hold over your head other than just stopping your business. Well, that's it, ladies and gents. If you don't have something of value that they can take and threaten you with and say, we're going to put this out there and blackmail you, they just stop your business. 25 employees out in the plant that are very good at their jobs are now held with no ability to do their jobs because they now no longer remember how to do it manually. They only know how to do it via computer. And the ransomware attack encrypted everything, stopping all their computers. They could not work. Hence, they paid the $150,000 ransom to get the computers back up and running so production could carry on. And the most important part, how did this happen? An employee clicked on a link that allowed the hackers in. So we only 25 people, 8 of us with PCs, but one of those clicked on a link that they shouldn't have clicked on. In the article, he says, we should have done training. We didn't think it was necessary. The second one is charity and fundraising fraud. There's still a lot of wealthy people out there. This COVID-19 hasn't even made a dent with them. Actually, some people are actually making a lot of money out of COVID-19. And there are a lot of charities that have popped up. How do you know which ones are legitimate and which aren't? This lady, Tara Banks, they cloned her profile and made her a charity. So it looks legitimate. She is a nurse. So they chose a photograph of her with her nurse's outfit on and her stethoscope around her neck and said, donate money. She found out that there was this fake profile of her as a charity. She contacted Facebook and said, this is not me, please take it down. How many times did she have to contact Facebook? 400 times. Facebook's not interested. Same with Google, they're so big. Our little complaint comes in with thousands of others. Do they have time to look at these things? I don't think so. Eventually, she took down her own profile to say, I don't want to be linked to this fake profile. So she's closed her profile down. How much time did that cost her? Trying to be the good Samaritan, trying to get Facebook to take this profile down because innocent people were being conned into giving her money for a non-existent charity. So very important to monitor the internet and social media for fake profiles of you and your employees. Fraudulent vaccines and cures. Hackers use fake contact tracing apps and attempt to install banking malware on Android phones. It's never ending, ladies and gents. That's why we're saying you see something great on the page, don't just click it, go and check it out first. Is it verified? Are people giving it good reviews? Is it being authenticated by anybody? Third-party seller and buyer scams on legitimate online retail websites. So there are dozens of fake websites now impersonating supermarket chains. And hackers are also impersonating delivery courier services to say, pay us and we'll deliver the item to you. Of course, you never get the item and you've lost your money. And when we had that ban on alcohol, we had fake bottle store ads appearing on social media. And they said, don't worry, place your ad with us. We'll, your order with us. We will deliver it to you. So people are desperate for their cigarettes. They are desperate for their alcohol. So they were placing orders. Their debit cards are being debited with the amount, and they sit waiting anxiously for the courier to arrive. And of course, nobody arrives. I hope you've all stocked up. And then, of course, business email compromise. This has been going on for a while, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It's also called business executive compromise. But that's how it started, because what happened was criminals would spoof the email address of a senior person in your organization. So the junior person receives an email from Mr. or Mrs. Big to say, transfer this money for me. And in most organizations, there's no speak up culture. You just do what the boss says. So people were intimidated into carrying out these fake instructions. But they've gone beyond that now. And globally, what they think has been lost is $26 billion has been lost to this, where you get the fake email to the junior person who's intimidated and they pay the money. And these are generally more sophisticated than these Nigerian 419 scams with the spelling errors and grammatical errors. So let me show you 2 examples. Before I do, so it's the CEO fraud. They're also doing procurement fraud. So you will get an email from a known customer saying, please, I'm placing this order. The customer's already got an account with you in 30 days, but it's a spoofed email. So it looks like it's from your customer, but it's not. And then they say, but this case, please deliver to this address instead of this one. You think, well, I'll deliver wherever you want to deliver. But it's because it's not the legitimate person that they're asking you to deliver it to this other address, which is a warehouse that they're renting for a week. When the goods arrive, they pack them up, distribute them, sell them, and they're gone. So always verify, ladies and gents. It just costs you 5 minutes due diligence to pick up the phone the person and say, is this you? Just verifying that this is your order. And they're also realizing that people now are being retrenched and that there's pension payouts. So they're finding out who's being retrenched, spoofing that person's email, emailing the HR person in the organization to say, please pay my pension into this account. HR says, well, I'll pay it in any account you want. So here's an example. Mr. Ulrich Wallen. He is the non-executive chairman of Hannover Re, which is in Germany. And our client very kindly allows us to use this example. And he sends the email to a local lady. And he says, hi, Zarita, I need you to process a bank transfer for me today. Let me know when you can so I can send the details. Now, this guy is the non-executive chairman. He's very high up. He sits in Germany, but he's non-executive, so which means he doesn't really deal with people. He doesn't even really deal with the MDs in the various country offices. He generally deals with the directors in Germany. So luckily, Zarita was skeptical about this, and she went to the secretary of the South African MD to say, Ulrich Wallen, does your boss ever get any correspondence from him? She said, yeah, 1 or 2 emails a year, but they're like generic emails. She said, please, can I see it? She said, sure. Sorry, before we go on, let me just blow that up. I think you will see there are 2 problems here. Number 1 is that it's a Gmail. And number 2, they've spelt chief wrong. So let's go back. There is the copy of the email that was received from the real Ulrich Wallen. So what Zarita did, she compared the 2. So there's 9 things that are suspicious. We've already looked at 2 of them, which are in the email address alone, the Gmail and the spelling error. The other thing is the name format. You'll notice it's Barkhuizen Zarita. That should be Wallen Ulrich, but it's Ulrich Wallen. They've got it the wrong way around. The tone, hi Zarita, he doesn't know her. He's very formal, dear colleagues. The font is incorrect. This guy is using Times New Roman. The real Ulrich Wallen uses Arial. The I is not capitalized. These are senior Germans in a German organization. They don't make those type of mistakes. The spacing. Hi Zarita, no space. The original dear colleague, space. Thanks, space. Kind regards, no space. We are creatures of habit. If I leave a space, I'll normally always leave a space. That's just who I am. There's no company signature, and it's sent from an iPhone. So this is not a numbers game. If we see one of these things, we should be suspicious. It's called professional skepticism. We should now be skeptical and ask somebody and say, what do you think? I've received this email from our group non-executive chairman. What do you think about it? So let's have a look at this one. The criminals realize by how many victims they get, whether what they're doing is working or not. So they realize, okay, we're making mistakes. Let's re-look at what we're doing. So now Talanx is the holding company of Hannover Re and a few other companies. So Herbert Haas is Ulrich Wallen's boss. So in this case, Wesley Clay is another financial manager in South Africa. He gets this email from Herbert K. Haas. Have you been contacted by Richard Meyer from the law firm? Because they've just sent him an email from this Richard Meyer saying transfer money, but he hasn't transferred the money. So now they're putting the pressure on to make it sound legitimate that, oh, I better do this, what the law firms asked me to do, because the big boss is putting pressure on me. And what you'll notice here, ladies and gents, is that it is Arial. It even has the German greeting. It has the company's logo. Look how they've improved. But there's still something that shows you it's not the correct person. It's a spoofed email. The email address says herbert.haas@talanx.com. That's his correct email. But it's been spoofed, meaning that when you click on it to reply to it, you're actually replying to boardexecutive@fastmail.fm. So it's critical to just hover your cursor over a link that you want to click on, because the outside may say one thing, but it's sending you somewhere else. The exact same thing with emails. Just check that when you click on Herbert Haas, that you actually are going to Herbert Haas and not somewhere else. And it is so easy to do this, ladies and gents. You can do it in PowerPoint, Word, Outlook. All you do is highlight the link and say insert link. And it asks you, once the box pops open, what do you want the outside to say versus where it's actually going to go. So the outside can say something totally different to the actual link itself. So those were the 5 most prolific fraud schemes that we've been seeing during the COVID-19 period. Now they're looking at what is predicted. What are we going to see for the next 6 to 12 months? And they're saying it's going to get worse and worse exponentially. Defrauding government stimulus programs. We know it's happening here, ladies and gents. It's been in our newspapers. It's happening in the UK. They're talking about £1.5 billion worth of fake coronavirus benefit claims. The charity schemes are going to carry on, so I'm skipping over the charity schemes. The phishing and smishing is going to get worse. I'm not going to regurgitate the phishing. We've looked at phishing. We understand phishing. I'm going to now look at smishing. So those are fake SMS messages that we're getting. Here is one that popped up about a month ago. Woolworths, actually a friend of mine sent me this to say, look at this, Woolworths is giving away 5,000 rands free groceries to support the nation. Ladies and gents, can you see any retailer doing that? Come on, I mean, it's just logic. 5,000 rands free groceries to all and sundry. It's just not going to happen. But they're selling us hope. That's what they're doing. We want to believe this, that wow, Woolworths and Pick and Pay and ShopRite are going to give me 5,000 rand groceries, and you and the next person, all of us. And they're going to go bankrupt. Sure, they're going to do that. If you have a look, here is the URL. Now, when you look at it, it says http www.woolworths. Let me expand it. Now, it's critical. I'm going to end on training and awareness. People are ignorant, not because they're ignorant, but because they're not taught. They don't know any better. How many people in your organization have been taught how to read a URL? You must probably click on that link because it says Woolworths. But if you look, there's no S. It should say HTTPS. Now, S does not guarantee it's from a non-fraudulent website. It just means the connection is secure and nobody can tap in and intercept what you're doing. That's what the S means. And most large organizations, Amazon, Woolworths, ShopRite, will have an S. They are secure because we do online shopping with them. Then we have a look at the domain name. It's Woolworths. That's correct. Woolworths is the domain name. There you'll see it popping up. When I put my cursor on it, it actually shows you you're going there. And then we look at the resource name. The resource name, ladies and gents, is woolworths.com.za-grocery.club. What a ridiculous resource name. The real Woolworths is just woolworths.co.za/index, whatever would come after it. You'll notice there's no / here, which means that is the whole resource that you're visiting. You are not going to Woolworths. And is it .com? Is it .za? Where are you actually going? We don't know. So you need to be extra careful when you're on your cell phone because it's small text. It's not a nice big laptop that you're looking at. And you might be taken in, oh, it's Woolworths. And you click on it and you get taken to the site. And then they ask you to do a survey and give personal information. And next minute, they've compromised your identity with identity theft. Then we look at cyber breaches related to working from home. When I log on at home, I generally can pick up about, depending on the weather, I can maybe pick up 7 or 8 of my neighbors here in the townhouse where I stay, on the complex. And some of them have not changed the name. So if you pick up my Wi-Fi, you don't know what model it is, because I've changed the name. The name is my photography company. It's not the modem. So nobody has any idea what modem I have. What we found is most people just think they need security on their cell phone and their laptop, and they leave the default on the modem and the router. So all I have to do, if I scan your home area and pick up that you've got a certain Netgear modem, I go to there's multiple websites. This is just one of them called router passwords. And it shows you, you can scroll from the A's to the Z's. Every single modem ever manufactured is listed here with the default username and password. How nice, how kind of them to do that. So if I see you using a Netgear FR314, I know the username is admin and password. I will try that. And if you have not changed it, I'm in. I'm on your laptop. A lot of people are having online meetings. And you might be wondering, why are we on this unsecure Zoom platform? Because I'm sure you've read in the press how unsecure Zoom is. There's MS Teams, there's Skype, there's Google. I've tried them all. My favorite is Zoom. It's just user-friendly. It works. It does what it's supposed to do. And it is secure. They didn't have in the past end-to-end encryption, which means somebody, mainly at Zoom, could come in and have a look at your videos and to see what you are recording. They now have end-to-end encryption. They were only going to have it on the paid accounts. They're even going to have it now on the free 40-minute accounts. But what a lot of people don't know is that MS Teams had their problems. It's just that it wasn't communicated as far and wide as Zoom was. Obviously, the competitors of Zoom love it when Zoom has a problem and they advertise it to everybody. Zoom, for whatever reason, didn't really advertise this to everybody, that MS Teams did have a problem. And Google had problems. And what you find, at the end of the day, the problems are not the system itself, the software itself. It's actually the users. So it's like you going out and leaving your home keys lying in the supermarket with your address on the keys, and then somebody comes and opens up your door and robs you, and then you're going to blame your security company. You left your keys there with your address. What do you expect, ladies and gents? This is what's happening here. People are so excited about their Zoom meeting or MS Teams meeting, but it's normally Zoom. They got more users than MS Teams, that people are advertising it on social media. This one relating to Google Classroom is primarily school kids. So school kids realize that criminals are searching the internet, looking for opportunities to Zoom, they call it Zoom crashing, Zoom bombing. As a child, I don't want to do my lesson. Why must I sit in a boring lesson listening to a teacher? I want to go and do other things. So I advertise the link on social media, hoping that the criminal will see it and Zoom bomb us with pornography or whatever, and then the teacher cancels the training for the day. So it's not only children that are doing that, it's adults as well. There's the Parliament of South Africa. They're having a meeting, and we all saw that they were Zoom bombed, and pornography came up on the screens. People don't know that somebody that had this invite put it on Twitter to say, look, the Parliament of South Africa, we are meeting on this day and this time, and here is the logon details. The same thing happened with Car Magazine. I forget his name. He advertised on Twitter, have a coffee with us. So while they're driving their Porsches and whatever nice cars they have around the track with the cameras going, people can log on and with the video camera on their helmet or on the car can see them going around the track. They Zoom bomb them as well because they advertised it on Twitter. So a lot of people are not using meeting passwords. They're not activating the meeting rooms. They're not locking the meeting room once people are in. And they're not limiting their screen shares. Sometimes you may have something confidential on your screen, and now you're sharing your screen. That's why it's critical. Don't share your whole screen if you're having a meeting. What you need to do is have your PowerPoint or Word document or whatever you want to share already open. So when it says share screen, you only share that document. You don't share your whole screen and then go and look for the document to try and open it. You don't want other people seeing what you have. Or clean your desktop. Unemployment fraud is going to increase because more and more people, they estimate that in South Africa, it could be as much as 1.5 million people are going to lose their jobs. And you've got all these fake job offers popping up. Well, of course, if there's a job offer, the first thing they're going to say to you, send us your CV, and your CV will have a copy of your ID book and your ID number and so on, and they're going to steal your identity. It's the same here with the Department of sport, arts, and culture. They've got a backlog. And so there's a scam here called the campaignza@gmail.com to say, contact us and we will make sure that we speed up your claim with the Department of Arts and Culture. And they could be doing that with various departments. A lot of people are saying to us, I can't wait till it gets back to normal. And I'm saying, I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't think we are going to go back to normal, ladies and gents. So they're calling it now the new normal. So what is the new normal? Well, those of you that might be involved in the forensic field, I don't know if there is anybody on the webinar. IT people are going to lose their jobs, which means we're going to see an increase in hacking. A lot of organizations are already telling me, we don't have money for investigation, so they're just going to leave it. Somebody's stolen from them. They've stolen hundreds of thousands, and they're saying, no, it's throwing good money after bad money. Let them just go. Forensic people are going to lose their jobs and start competing with us. And they're going to come in at cutthroat prices, forcing us to go lower and lower. You need to ask yourself, what type of remote digital evidence capability do you have? Because we're going to be trying to get information electronically now, no more hard copies. And we're going to be putting them up on the cloud. We're going to be managing remote teams. We need to link up with them more often than less often. And we're going to have to interview witnesses and suspects via Zoom. So you're looking at me now. How do you know there's not somebody sitting on the other side of my screen telling me what to say if I was a witness or a suspect? You don't know. So I'm sitting here looking at you, but there's the person in front of me telling me this, say this, holding up what I must say. Or I just mute my button and he tells me what I must say. So those are the challenges we're sitting with. We've also been taught body language. I cannot see the whole body of the person. I can only see from the chin upwards. So now we're going to have to focus not on body language, but micro expressions. And maybe only just the eyes, because people are wearing masks. That's how it's changing for us in the forensic industry. How's it going to change for you, whatever industry you may be in? So if we look at occupational fraud and abuse, there are three broad categories, and we can see corruption increasing. Think of the pressure on people now to get jobs, to get sales. They're going to be tempted to offer a bribe or ask for a bribe, which is economic extortion. I will give you the tender, but what are you going to give me? To give gifts, to have conflicts of interest, to start dealing with friends and family. Don't worry, I know it's bad for you. I'll make sure you get the tender because you're my brother-in-law.
Okay, so there we go. Results of that poll. We've got, Mario, interesting, we've got 64% employees there, 14% suppliers, and 21% contractors. Those are the, we didn't have any for those other options. Back to you, thanks.
Yeah, great, thank you. Here's a survey where the exact same question was asked. And just like you, employees come out at number one, here at 67, but look at suppliers. Because they know that generally the suppliers and employees are going to collude. So they generally will be the same stats. There's extreme pressure on the vendors to get work. So we're going to see an increased risk of bribes and illegal gifts. In terms of procurement, we're going to see increased risk of kickbacks and economic extortion. And of course, with government tenders, we're going to see an increase in tender manipulation and bid rigging, where the people that are tendering for this government department's work are going to collude together. So what they tend to do is they will together and say, we are the ones that are now tendering. Let's not fight each other. So what they agree to do, they're all going to inflate their price by, let's say, 5 million. So there's 5 of them. They inflate their price by 5 million. Whoever gets it has to give the losers 1 million, 1 million, 1 million. That's what bid rigging is. And I think we're going to see an increase in fraudulent financial statements. Think of the pressure on executives to cook the books, to look good. Otherwise, they think, well, the shareholders get rid of us. They want their money to perform. So there's going to be an incentive now to cook those books, to to say they have less liabilities than they really have and more assets than they really have. And if people can get hold of the assets, I think they will start stealing the assets, the small things, taking them home, selling them, pawning them, having ghost employees on the payroll and so on. I mean, people are working from home. How do we, if we are a big organization, how do we know this person even exists? Because they're not clocking in. There's no biometrics. There's no card. Just sitting at home. So yes, ladies and gents, correctly said that employees are going to be the #1 problem because they are the trusted employee. We wouldn't hide them if we didn't trust the person. And Deloitte did a survey back in 2010 where they found that about half of people were engaged and the other half were not engaged, or they were actively disengaged, which means there's no loyalty whatsoever. And they're not making mistakes. They're going out of their way to try and make sure that something goes wrong for the employer. Have things changed since 2010? Yes, they have. They've actually got worse. Here's a Gallup poll done in 2016. If we look at sub-Saharan Africa, only 17% of employees admit to being engaged. 17%. A Ponemon survey, there's South Africa at the bottom. Distribution of sample of root causes for the data breach. 37% is human error. Those are the people that just come to work. I don't really care what the policy says. I haven't read it, so I've forgotten it. I haven't attended the training. 37%. And another 37% is malicious attack, either insider or outsider. So at least 50% of our problem is going to come from within in terms of root cause data breach. And that just shows you, ladies and gents, when you have a data breach, phishing, ransomware, it can take up to a year to identify the breach and then contain the breach. That's horrendous. Okay, I'm just going to stop my video because it's telling my internet connection is not great. Okay, ladies and gents, what I want to do now is people say, what should we be doing? What advice should we be giving our people who are working from home or from the office? #1, use passphrases. Kevin Mitnick has got the reputation of being the world's most famous hacker. He was the first person to go to jail for hacking in the United States. And he says, don't use passwords. He says he can crack a password of 8 digits in a few hours. The strongest password you can think of, he will crack it if it's 8 digits. So he's saying use 25 letters or more. So, for example, your password could be, I love spaghetti bolognese. Easy to remember, but very difficult to crack because it's not a word. It's a phrase that's all joined together. Don't reuse passwords. So many people are reusing their passwords on Dropbox and Yahoo and at the office. And if there's a data breach, they get your Yahoo password and they try it at your office. If you're working from home, use a VPN, a virtual private network. It costs $10, $12 a month to subscribe to a VPN, and it's well worth it. Actually, your employer should be looking at paying for something like this for you at home. What operating system are you using at home? I know people that are still using Windows XP. There are no more updates, ladies and gents. So if you're using Windows XP at home, you're a sitting duck for the criminals. Do regular backups. Now, with a regular backup, most people have got a hard drive, an external hard drive. And we say to them, when you go to sleep, tell me what it looks like on your desk. And I'll say, well, my computer is plugged in. I switch it off. And I say, where's your hard drive? No, it's plugged in. Plugged in where? Plugged into the wall and plugged into my laptop. We're saying, please pull that plug out. Because if the criminals hit you at night and your external hard drive is plugged into your laptop, they're going to send you a ransomware attack, and you're going to most probably have to pay because you're not going to be able to access your hard drive because it's plugged in. You've given them access to your backup. the backup needs to be far away from your primary source of information. So make sure before you go to bed, pull out the connection between your external hard drive and your laptop or PC. And make sure you do regular backups. Also do patch management. If you get asked, do you want to patch Adobe Acrobat or Photoshop, say yes. Don't wait till tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, because you're giving the criminals a couple of days now to get into you where they know you have a vulnerability. Try and segregate your work and home. If you're working, try and close your doors. You know, you could just get up to go and make a cup of coffee, and your son or daughter climbs up onto your laptop and starts pressing buttons and maybe sends an email that they shouldn't. Just try and make sure you as security minded as when you're at the office. Secure your personal devices. Some people tell me, yeah, I've got the latest iPhone, or I've got a Samsung Galaxy, whatever. And I say to them, what antivirus are you using? Oh, I'm not using any antivirus. I said, why not? Well, it's only my cell phone. Yeah, well, your cell phone is a mini computer, is it not? It can do exactly what your laptop can do. Make sure you update your antivirus regularly. Set your router defaults. We discussed that one already. Authentication. You may have heard of two-factor authentication. And we're saying even two-factor now is not enough. Criminals are able to get our thumbprints. They're able to crack our passwords. So we need multi-factor authentication. That's why the banks now are looking at what device do we use. So if you try to log into your bank with a Samsung Galaxy, but the bank knows the last 25 times you logged in with an iPhone, they're going to send you a message saying, is this you? Because it's a different device. So that's another authentication factor. Same as where do you live? So they see somebody logging on from China or from Australia, they're going to ask you, is it you? Because we know you are based in Gauteng, South Africa. If you've got sensitive documents at home, lock them away, ladies and gents. Don't leave them lying around. You don't know if your helper maybe just whips out her cell phone, takes a few photographs of stuff on your desk and then sells it. You just don't know. We've even had a case where the husband got hold of the wife's information and sold it to a syndicate. She worked at one of the telecoms companies. You can't even trust your own spouse sometimes. Don't print sensitive documents, because again, when you've finished with them, what are you going to do with them? Throw them in the waste paper basket? I don't have a shredder at home. At the office, at least we've got a shredder, and we should be shredding these type of documents. If you've got Alexa and Google Home and Siri, when you're having a conversation, sometimes these things just come on by themselves. They think you said, call their name, and they start recording. And we had a person in America where it recorded the husband and wife's conversation and emailed that to one of their friends. Make sure these things are switched off and unplugged. Lock your Zoom meetings. We've discussed that. Unplug your hard drives. Your screen positioning. Where are you sitting when you're at home? Could a neighbor with binoculars or a telescope be looking at your screen and seeing what you're doing? Try and just turn the screen away so that your neighbor, if they are sitting there with their binoculars, cannot see. What about your policies? Have you updated your policies for work from home? Are you doing security awareness training? And are you at least surveying your staff members to find out what are their issues? They're out of sight, out of mind. They're under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure. They need to know you're caring about them, even though they're locked up at home and you're not seeing them at the office. So I want to focus on those last three. Updating of policies. Either update your policies or create a work from home policy. Remember that your employees are sitting at home. They're using your bandwidth, your networks. Does your IT usage policy talk about working from home? Does your HR policy talk about working from home? People are feeling isolated and disconnected. In the United States, a woman tripped over a dog while carrying work papers. She hurt herself. So the Workers' Compensation Tribunal said, you're at home, there's no liability from your employer. You need to pay for your medical bills. She went to the appeal court. The appeal court said, there's a shared responsibility here. So you need to know, what are the ergonomics? Some people are lying, reclining on their beds. They're going to get stiff necks if they sit like that. I do a lot of online training for learnerships. So I say to people, please put on your cameras. People don't want to put on their cameras because they're lying on the bed in their pajamas. And I'm saying, you're not going to learn like that, ladies and gents. You need to dress up, get in the right attitude, and then you most probably will pass the test at the end of the day. Google has gone so far as to say we're going to give each employee $1,000 to buy new office furniture. You don't have to go that far, ladies and gents, but just make sure you go to your employee's home, have a look at the layout and see how they're comfortable, photograph the layout. So if there ever is a claim against you, you can say, oh, I see you've changed where you're sitting. You're no longer sitting where you showed me. You chose to go sit in the basement where it's freezing cold and you got sick. You can't hold us responsible. People are going to have mental health issues. So does your policy, do you have this employee assistance program? If somebody feels depressed, who can they turn to? What about fire and weather emergencies? We had a case, I think it was last year, the year before, a family, their gas heater caught on fire during the night and they burned to death because they couldn't find the key to unlock the trolley door. So those are the type of things you need to look at now, because the people are no longer at the office where you've got your 5-star NOSA rating. They're sitting at home doing work. So you just need to make sure that those type of death, if there was a fire, could they get out quickly? And of course, the injuries caused by the environment. Like I said, the lady that tripped over a dog. The Health and Safety Act states that it generally doesn't hold employers liable. But at the same time, it says that employers are responsible for safe working conditions regardless of the location. So you've got this stress between the two, this tension. Which one is it? And they'll take each case as it comes. At least you can say, well, we did something. The employee decided to go and do something else. Then we look at security awareness training. Most companies have what's called the OSI, Open System Interconnection. It's these 7 layers. They have a physical layer, network layer, and so on. But what's missing is that 8th security layer. And that is how the criminal is getting to our people. He is bypassing our email filters and our firewalls and our intrusion detection. So it's critical, ladies and gents, to do awareness training for your people, especially for the senior people, because that's what we found. More often than not, it's a senior person that clicks on a link because they couldn't be bothered attending the training. They are the CEO or CFO. Why do they need to attend this training? And they're the ones that end up clicking on these links. There is a problem with old school awareness training. Formal training accounts for 10% of how a person learns. 70% is experiential. So we need to make training more experiential. Plus, people within a week retain only 30% of what they're supposed to have taken in. Average attention span, not good. People are generally demotivated because they got work to do. You tell them you must attend a 1-day or a 3-day course. They're going to say, I can't afford that time. So therefore, there's a lack of positive behavior change. People are attending training, but the behaviors remain constant. Nothing's improving. So people are saying we're wasting our money. So we've partnered with an organization called KnowBefore. This is a company owned 50% by Kevin Mitnick, the world's most famous hacker. And this is how they've structured the training. They do what's called a baseline test. So the baseline test would look at what percentage of your employees are clicking on phishing links at the moment. And what we found, the average is 30%. 1/3 of your staff will most probably click on phishing links. And within 3 months of the training, it's down to half. Within a year, it's down to about 2%. by doing regular ongoing training. And these are small snippets, little videos, quizzes, gamification, those type of things to keep people interested. I want to give you an example. Here's one of the videos. This is Kevin Mitnick.
So I have to tell you the story where I was hired to break into a major bank using social engineering techniques and defeating their physical security to get into their data center. So what I did is when I first went into the lobby of the skyscraper, it was over 50 stories. They had armed security, guys with guns. You'd have to sign in a log after showing your driver's license, and then you could use your access card to get to the elevator to go up to your floor. So I had to figure a way to defeat this. So what I did is I found the number to the leasing office of the building. I called it, and then I used a little bit of phone pretexting. I said I was Jim Smith, that we just had a fire in the building, and I wanted to take a look at what office space they had available immediately. So the very next day, I'm now walking around with the leasing agent. She's showing me the different offices. I'm negotiating price. And then I wanted to ask her the key question. I go, how many keys do we get to the offices? She goes, oh, no, sir, we don't give you keys. We give you access cards. So what I noticed is that she actually had an access card dangling from her belt with her picture on it. So I asked her, I go, can I take a look at that? So she takes it off her belt, she hands it to me, and then with my daily planner, I put it over it. I look at her picture, I hand it back, and what she didn't realize is my daily planner that I was carrying was a special daily planner with a little bit of technology inside that was used to steal the card ID and the site ID so I could clone her card.
So that gives you an idea of the type of programs. They've got over 1,000 items. They've got even South African flavor ones. Here's one from Popcorn.
Oh, there we go. Here we go. Miss Water Fountain is well-dressed, brand names, loves online shopping. Your bite has to be perfect. These are discount vouchers for high-end fashion stores. Fan. Oh, I love a footy fan. And he's a big one. I've got it. Season tickets to the game. Our footy fans are the easiest, man. Everybody supports the best team in the world.
Sorry, I'm currently out of office.
Season tickets.
So that just gives you an idea of some of the fun type of training. Short, sweet, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then you actually need to fish your users. Send actual emails to see, are they going to click on it or not? And some of the training is like this one, Spot the Fish. Here's an email from PayPal. Is it legitimate or is it a fish? And you've got to decide. If you say, no, it's legit, they'll tell you, sorry, you've lost 100 points. And then they'll show you what you should have picked up. That the sender name and the sender email do not tie in. If you had a PayPal account, they'll be calling you by your name. They're not, and that link is not taking you to where it should be. Same thing with memory sticks. We load a whole lot of documents onto memory sticks and leave them lying around the organization. Now, the policy says, if you find a memory stick, do not plug it in. Bring it to IT. IT will examine it and decide who it belongs to. What they found, up to 98% of people are very keen to see what's on that memory stick, and they plug it in. If they plug it in, it notifies you immediately that somebody has plugged this in. If they open up the Word documents and the spreadsheets and enable macros, it tells you immediately. And then you can see the results. It shows you exactly who did what, and month by month, week by week, is your phishing percentage increasing, is it decreasing, and so on. So the trick is to get a change of behavior, and that's what's missing in many organizations. In order to get the desired behavior, you need to look at three things. You need to look at motivation. Is the person motivated? Well, if you're fishing me the whole time, I don't want to be the black sheep of the family, so I'll be motivated to double check these things before I click on them. I need the ability, means I've attended the training, and the training's not hard. It's not 3 days worth of sitting there scratching my head. It's 10, 15 minutes on a regular basis. And then when I get the prompt, I'll be more keen to action it because I'm motivated and I have the ability. So generally, this is what it would look like over a year period. You would have your executive message, your learning modules, a newsletter, posters, and the whole time you're fishing, fishing, fishing. New message, new learning modules, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, fishing tests, fishing tests. This is just showing you how many people have signed up. Nobi offered their course for free. 5 million people signed up in April, of which 2.5 million took the course. If you want to do it, it's still available. There is the URL. I think it's about 15 or 20 minutes, which you can distribute to your employees to say, when you're at home, people, please be careful. Tessian did a survey on why data loss protection has failed. Look how often people do training. 40% once a year or never. Never. Versus 24% once every 6 months. That's not enough, ladies and gents. We forget things within 6 days. How much are we going to forget in 6 months? And 37% do once every month to 3 months. Still not enough. We need to do little bits more regularly. And remember, hackers love South Africa. They come here to test the systems first before they start taking it to America, Europe, and Australia. And why is that? Because our measures are not as robust and we lack training and knowledge. And then lastly, survey your staff members. They will tell you, whenever we do a forensic investigation, we speak to witnesses, colleagues of the suspect, and we say, did you not see this or see that? And they say, yeah, I saw it, but we say, why didn't you say anything? And they say, well, nobody asked me. If you ask people, they generally will tell you. If you don't ask, they think you don't care. So remember, there's a formal and informal cultural system. And a lot of times, senior people are only aware of the formal system, and they think that is the system throughout the business, not realizing that middle management, in many cases, is protecting them from what is actually going on down at the bottom. So it's critical that senior people do surveys to get feedback from everybody else. In 1983, Hollinger and Clark published a survey, 12,000 employees, and they said the #1 reason for employee deviance is job dissatisfaction. And that's why we say, ask your people, are you happy? If you're not happy, what are you not happy about? Yes, you're always going to get that little percentage that no matter, if you gave them the corner office with a lunchtime massage, they still wouldn't be happy. So just deal with those people. But the others that you can help, why are we not helping them? And a lot of times it's small things. I've had 13 jobs, ladies and gents. On those 13 jobs, I've had about 20 bosses. I think 3 bosses were good. The rest didn't care about anybody else but themselves. And that's why we're saying, find out from employees what's going on. And since the 1980s, things have not changed. Here's a survey done this year. Employee satisfaction and the impact on corporate fraud. There's the URL if you want to download the article and read it. It's still, job dissatisfaction is one of the main drivers of unethical behavior. So how do we do surveys? We normally do a pre and post workshop survey. It used to be a paper survey, little one-pager. People didn't trust it because they'd say, who's going to read these? If my boss reads it, he'll see my handwriting. So we've gone to online surveys done directly with us. And we ask these type of questions. Do you think the people you work with are generally honest? And they tell us yes or no. Here's an example, branch 1, 53% think neither their colleagues or bosses are honest. Wow. Versus branch 2, a little bit better, only 34% are not honest. We then ask them more questions. What unethical behaviors are you seeing? Look how bad branch 1 is. They are seeing a lot of unethical behaviors. And it's multiple people seeing them. versus branch 1, which is not as bad. So the next step was to see what is the root cause of this. Ladies and gents, 80% of the time, the root cause is the boss. Most bosses haven't had people training. They don't know how to interact with people, breed loyalty. So we do what we call a Blake and Mouton leadership style. And let's just compare branch 1 to branch 2. If it appears up here, the scores, it means the boss only cares about people. He had 0. Not one person thinks their boss cares about people. 19% think they care about both people and task, which is good. That's where you want the ideal boss to be, versus 34% that cares for neither. Look at branch 2, how it swung. 54% of employees say, yes, my boss cares about both me and the task. I'm happy. That's why you're seeing less unethical behavior. We then ask them questions like, well, you work here. Just like Taichi Ono at Toyota. He said, why must I hire expensive consultants to come and tell me what's wrong with my business? They don't know my business. They're going to spend weeks here to learn my business before they can tell me what's wrong. Let me go and ask the people on the floor, which is what he did, which is what we do. We ask them simple questions. What do you think should be done to prevent fraud, detect fraud, increase ethics? And whatever they tell us, we put it into 3 categories, relating it to root cause analysis, people, process, and technology. Another question from the Tessian survey. Let me give you the average. This just shows you the number of employees. So on average, 91% of IT leaders say they are trusting their employees to read the policies and follow the policies while working from home. 91%. When you actually ask the employees, are you following the policies? 48% said, no, I'm less likely to follow the policies when I'm at home. There's this disconnect from what the leaders of the business think is happening versus what the employees are actually doing.
And let's just share the results. Okay, so there we go. For that one, Mario, we've got a whopping, it's a
yes,
huge favorite, 92%, a deceptive email sent to a specific individual.
That's what I was looking for. Well done, ladies and gents.
There we go. Well done, guys.
You'd be surprised how many people don't even know what phishing is, let alone what spear phishing is.
Thanks, great.
I'm going to show you a short clip. They interviewed people on the street.
I don't know much about phishing scams, actually.
Here's a person who employs 4,000 staff members. They don't even know what phishing is, let alone spear phishing.
Yeah. What do you throw a spear at a fish? Catch it? Right?
No, to be honest, we haven't done a formal training for it. Most of us are young. I think we all just have this assumption that we know what we're doing on the internet, but I think we should know better, honestly. So if things are getting more sophisticated, it's something I would be interested in learning more about.
That's the importance of training. And they found, ladies and gents, that, as I said at the beginning, we're not going back to normal. Google, Facebook, many organizations are now saying, hey, this is actually working nicely. The people are productive, they're at home. The ones that we trust, letting them stay at home. They can work from home now. The ones that have to be managed, we'll tell them to come into the office. And a lot of 60% of people saying that if a company offers alternative work locations, it's a key consideration when choosing a job. So working from home, I don't think is going away. But I've had a few calls from clients of ours to say, I don't trust my people. I don't think they're doing what they're doing. I said, why do you say that? And they said, it's just a gut feel. So if that's you, ladies and gents, here are 5 tools that you could look at to monitor what your employees are doing. There are active links. So when, just want to put my video back on. When you are sent these slides, you can just click on them and go check out the pricing. It's an annual subscription. If you're uncertain about what people are doing, it even shows you screenshots. So you might think they're working, but it shows you they're looking at pornography or whatever the case may be. These are the moment of the 5 top products. I don't know which is the best one. I haven't used them. Our company is 7 or 8 people that we all together. Doesn't say it can't happen, it can. So in conclusion, ladies and gents, if you look at the fraud deterrence life cycle, on the left, you have It's called left of fraud. That's where the fraud triangle happens. The person hasn't committed the fraud yet. Once those three things come together, they cross the line and they commit, they conceal, and they convert. And we're saying it's critical what you do on the left. Spend a few rands on the left for prevention and detection and training and awareness, then spending the hundreds of thousands or the millions on the right doing forensic investigations with e-discovery and so on. It doesn't make sense. I know we all like to think, oh, we've hired the honest people, but it's not the case, ladies and gents. People do change. I want to end on a positive note, however. A friend of mine sent me a video of his daughter drawing, and he said, look at this. She's lived with me for 20 years, and I never knew she was so gifted. Look how she can draw. She's now selling her artwork online. He said, if it wasn't for the COVID-19, I would never have known. She would never have known. So all I'm saying is we need to make the most of a bad situation instead of just sitting home feeling sorry for ourselves, which some people, I believe, are doing. Some husbands and wives are even getting divorced because they found out they're not compatible anymore. So closing thoughts, ladies and gents, it's crisis that often drives successful change. Businesses need to use COVID-19 to prepare for future long-term emergencies. This is not going to be the last pandemic. What happens when the next one comes along? Do you have a business continuity management plan? And it means more than stockpiling toilet rolls, sanitizer, and face masks. It means rethinking how we work and how we organize business, starting with moving away from manual systems. The criminal loves manual systems, ladies and gents, because those documents can just vanish. Whereas if everything is scanned and it's online, it's easily accessible, it's easy to do evaluations and data analytics and so on. I was one of those people. I don't enjoy this type of training. I prefer face-to-face where I can look at the body language and interact and have eye contact, but I have to make do with the current situation. And that concludes the webinar. I don't know if there are any questions. I see there could be.
Hey, thanks, Mario. I'm going to jump in, and there are two questions. I'll maybe just help facilitate. The first one is from Eric. It was actually just a comment. He writes, when you spearfish, you aim for one specific target.
Eric, I'm glad you brought that up. So what would happen is they would find out, for example, who in your business plays golf, because golfers are fanatics. Like I'm a wildlife fanatic. So they will then send an email to those people for a free subscription to Golfer magazine, knowing that there's a good chance that the people are going to click on it because they're golf fanatics. So yes, 100%.
Okay, lovely. Thanks, Eric. And then from Tamara, from your experience, what is the best motivator to encourage employees to blow the whistle?
Tamara, we need to give some sort of reward to people. Many companies say to me, you know what, it's the employee's duty to report anything unethical. I said, yes, you're right, it is our duty. But you know what is happening? These people are getting discriminated against, they are getting fired, they are getting killed. So the least we can do is reward them. Now, for example, First National Bank gives R1 million reward. At the end of every year, everybody that blew the whistle during the month get a 50,000 Rand prize. The one at the end of the year gets R1 million. So what we found happening is that people are creating the fraud in order to get the reward. So what we say is we should rather be giving people monetary rewards, like Nedbank, for example, says we're not giving anybody R1 million. So we will give the reward based on the effort put in. And was there successful prosecution? Was there successful recoveries of money? So you can make them employee of the month, make them part of the inner circle, that they're a valued, trusted employee. You need to give them something. And talk is cheap, ladies and gents. In some companies, we get told our management has foot and mouth disease. And we said, what are you talking about? And they said, they're telling us to do the right thing, but their feet are doing something else. So if you say you're going to protect whistleblowers, you need to actually protect them. Otherwise, the message will spread very quickly where people say, don't blow the whistle. The last person that did got fired or demoted or ostracized. So the critical thing is try and reward them somehow. It doesn't have to be monetary, and make sure that you do protect them.
Here, Vida, are people obliged to be on video during meetings? What about personal preference or privacy laws?
No, you're not obligated to have it on. It just makes it more personal. So obviously, if you've got a webinar and there's 500 people, they won't even fit on the screen. So it's pointless putting it on. What we suggest is when I'm doing training, so if I'm doing in-house training, it's not just a 1.5 hour and we all gone, we don't get to know each other. If people ask a question, they put on their video, they ask the question, we can see them interact, and they switch their video off again. So it's up to them. No one can really force you to put the video on.